Good morning. I decided to cast on a new project today. I'm actually working or actively working on two right now, and I have, I think, two hibernating somewhere in the back of my project bag, which is not an ideal situation for me. I get very anxious having so many active projects, but I also get anxious having too much yarn around that isn't in a project yet. I never buy yarn if I don't have the intention of making that into a specific project. But I do have two more full sweater quantities worth of yarn laying around right now that do have a purpose, but they're stressing me out, and I'm kind of frustrated with one of my active projects, and I really need something just stuck in it that I can easily work on and that I'm excited about, and that's why I decided to cast on today, which I might regret this, but we'll see. A while ago I decided to make a wrap top because I fell into a weird rabbit hole on TikTok. Okay, actually I don't know if it's weird, but there's this, I should have done more research on this, I don't even know how to describe it. There's these ballet people, and then there's this one girlie who's like a photographer or something, and she like does photography of the ballet people, and I keep seeing all of their TikToks. I think the one, her name's Maya something, she's now like in Sweden at like one of the royal ballet, I think it's called, and she's like the main girl there. I don't know things about ballet. I've done ballet when I was a child, but it wasn't really like you imagine it. Anyways, I keep seeing these girlies and they all have these gorgeous wrap tops, and I don't know, I got excited about them, so I looked for a pattern and I settled on the Elliot sweater by 𝗤𝗛𝗥𝗡𝗥, which was a free pattern. I compared a lot of wrap tops. I don't know, I sat there for like a whole 2 hours just looking at wrap tops on Ravelry, and none of them really like seemed what I wanted. But I decided that the Elliot sweater comes the closest. I'm gonna make some changes to it though. I downloaded the pattern and I did get some yarn. I did not get the recommended yarn because I have been eyeing a specific yarn that I wanted to make something with for a while now, which isn't usually something I do. So I got this yarn, which is camarose høst. I'm probably butchering the name. It has this funny little O. I don't know how to pronounce it. Høst? Is that the right? I don't know. Anyways, I was like, I don't know, a while ago I was browsing through yarn options for another thing I was making, and I came across this, and it definitely wasn't suitable for the thing I was making at the time, but it looks absolutely stunning. It's also a very interesting combination that I've never ever seen before, I think. So it's 75% cotton and then 16% wool and 9% cashmere, which is already a weird combination, but it's a blown yarn, and the net is made out of the cotton, and then the wool and the cashmere are blown into it, which, to be honest, I can't really see that well, but that's what it says on the website, so I'm just gonna believe that. Anyways, it's really cool, and they come in a lot of gorgeous colors, but I settled on this one. It's called, I'm gonna butcher this again, tranebær. I'm just gonna pretend that's how it's pronounced. I already did a swatch, obviously. I do swatch, I don't know, it doesn't bother me as much. I think making swatches is kind of exciting, but I'm also always off with my gauge, so I think that might be one of the reasons, because I actually have to make a swatch. This is my swatch, by the way. Doesn't this look so beautiful? I don't know, I'm so excited for this. So this is already blocked, and I hit gauge pretty much exactly. I did go down half a needle size, so I'm at 4.5 millimeters now, not at 5 as the pattern recommends, because my gauge is always too loose, so I just started swatching with a 4.5 immediately, but yeah, I got it. I mean, that's pretty much perfect. I already did some preparations with the pattern as well, because I mean, you probably haven't seen the pattern, but if you have, I don't know who thought it was a good idea to write it like that. I don't want to be too critical. It was a free pattern. I'm happy I found it. I like the design, but it's horribly written, if I may say. It's in steps. I don't know how to describe it very well, but it just says, okay, now do, I don't know, the back, and then there's like different steps. So it's like step 1, cast on, step 2, knit ribbing like this, and then step 3, now do a decrease row like this. And the problem is that all of the sizes are like also put into the steps, so sometimes it'll be like, oh, now repeat, I don't know, step 16 through 19, 7 times. And then the next thing is, if you're size 3 or 4, repeat step 17 to 19 3 more times. And it's so confusing to read. So usually before I buy yarn, I like read through the pattern to make sure it's actually something I want to do. And I could not get through that one. I was so confused. I had no idea what was happening at any point. And I just knew that if I had to work with the pattern in that form, I would not have a good time making this. So I did actually already sit down and take like, I don't know, 3 hours out of one of my days. And I rewrote the pattern for the size I want to make, which is size 3. So I like went through all of the steps one by one and tried to figure out what they were trying to tell me. And I just wrote a normal pattern that is not in steps. I also already know that I will be making some adjustments to the pattern because I want to be able to tie my wrap top, but the Elliot sweater is a sweater and not really a wrap top, as the name says. So the ribbing is attached and then it has these like diagonal, I don't know, panels that go over the front. So it kind of has the look of a wrap top, but without actually being for wrapping. However, I really want that feature. So to the pattern that I wrote, I made adjustments for me to be able to have like a split in the ribbing. So for the pattern as it is, you knit the ribbing in like one panel, and then you do one of the triangles on it, and then you attach the other triangle like behind the first one. So you basically do a wrap top except the ribbing, and I rewrote the pattern to find a way that the ribbing is also just part of the triangle panel, so I can do some ties in the end and I can wrap it together where the ribbing is. So that's my plan so far. It's 12:30. I just wanted to give you a little update before I go to bed. This is where we're at right now. So I did cast on. I was supposed to go to like a knitting club something earlier. I've never been to an event like that. I was quite excited, and it was hosted at a cafe, I guess, but like a cafe with very weird opening hours. So it was already like officially closed, but then the knitting club was supposed to be there, and I showed up and everything was dark and locked and there was nobody. And then I waited for 15 minutes to see if somebody would show up, and nobody showed up, so I just went back home. I was kind of sad. So I don't know, the event didn't happen, but yeah, I still wanted to cast on, and this is what I've done so far. I think I was not quite this far already on 3.5mm needles, which is what the pattern says to use. And then I made a mistake somewhere. I frogged back, and then I kind of held it on my body and I thought, nah, it looks too large. And I also sized down for the stockinette part, so I thought I should maybe also size down for the ribbing. And then I just frogged everything and I started over in 3mm needles. Grabbing this and taking it everywhere with me, like on the bus or on the train, or I don't know, just shopping out in the city, and then I sit and I have a coffee and I do this. So this has already come quite far with me. Other than that, I really like the yarn, which I'm happy about, because I've had some bad experiences in the past where I've looked at the skein of yarn that was like a variegated skein and I was really excited about it. I thought it would look so cool, and then I knitted it up and I didn't really like the way it looked knitted. So I was a bit afraid of that happening, but it didn't. I really like this. It's like this eggplant, dark red-ish color. Also, the fiber composition is really interesting to me because, I mean, it's a weird fiber composition to begin with, but I haven't really come across a blown yarn where the net was made out of cotton. I don't know if that's a common thing. Maybe it is, and I just don't see blown yarns as much, but I think it's very interesting, and especially because it doesn't really feel like cotton. It feels more like an animal fiber than it feels like cotton to me, which is nice because I like how animal fibers feel. I don't like that they're so warm because I don't need many things that are that warm. I don't know, it seems so perfect because it's so soft. It's like it has this little bit of fluff to it that animal fibers do, and still it's not going to produce a very warm result. So it seems too good to be true. I kind of wish they had some like non-variegated colors of this as well. Not that I don't like the way they look, I think they're all stunning, but I don't know, I think I would like to use this more in the future. I'm like talking too early probably, I'm like this far done, but yeah, I'm gonna see how it wears, but definitely this is something that's very interesting for me to use in the future, because I really like this a lot. Good evening. I just wanted to give a tiny little update on my sweater. Today I don't even know how to call this. I started on the armhole. I wanted to say split for sleeves, but I obviously didn't split because I'm not knitting in the round. So I finished this like body panel of the back where you just knit back and forth and do nothing else. And I originally wanted to make it a tiny bit longer than it said in the pattern. I think you're supposed to make it 27.5 centimeters, and I wanted to aim for like 30. But then once I hit that 30, I realized that it seemed a little bit long. And also I realized that it would be more difficult for me to do the front, or I would have to do more changes to the pattern than I already did for the front. Because the back panel has a section where you just knit back and forth, and I could kind of pick the length at random, but for the front panel there's like decreases everywhere because you do the triangle shape. So I didn't necessarily have that freedom to just make it longer in the pattern, and since it seemed a bit long anyways, I decided to go back and just go with the 27.5 centimeters that was suggested. And then I bound off for the armholes here. I think it says 5 stitches, but it's somehow supposed to be 6, I guess. At least I thought I did 5 and then I had too much. But yeah, I fixed that. And now it's just decreases. I finished my back panel. I don't know, I put this sweater aside for quite a little bit and worked on some other things. But I think the last time I talked to you, I had just split for sleeves and was working on the decreases here. And I'm happy to say I finished them. So this is what my back panel looks like. I just followed it to pattern basically. The only thing I changed about it was the length of the ribbing. How do I show this? Wait, can I? Further back, barely. It just flops in on itself, I don't know. And I think sizing wise it looks pretty perfect. I was a little bit worried it would be too short, or not necessarily too short, but I would like mine to be a little bit longer than in the picture. But I think it just is, I don't know, maybe my row gauge doesn't quite match up, but it's pretty perfect. I'm also really excited to block this. When I blocked my swatch, it was so nice to watch the fibers like relax and all of the little gaps in between my stitches fill up. So now I'm gonna work on the front panel for a little bit. If you remember, to the front panel I made some adjustments because, well, the pattern is for a sweater, but I want a wrap top. So I adjusted the pattern in a way where I will make 2 separate triangles and then tie them together instead of attaching them at the ribbing. So I started doing the ribbing, and one of the changes that I made to the pattern was that I included an I-cord edge at the side of the ribbing, so I could attach my tie to that I-cord, and you know, that would be like visible and a clean edge instead of, you know, how ribbing looks at the edge. No, that's the wrong side, like this, which, you know, is a little imperfect. So yeah, I knitted up the ribbing, and then I looked back at my pattern and I realized that I hadn't done the I-cord. I don't know, I wrote it down, but when I started casting on I just forgot about it, I guess. So I wrote back, and this is my second iteration of what the ribbing looks like. I did exactly as many rows as for the back, and now I'm gonna do like I think they call it a setup row, where I do some decreases, and then it's just gonna be back and forth stockinette with decreases on one side to shape the triangle. And I did do the I-cord this time. I even put a little stitch marker for myself so I would remember, and it's barely visible in the ribbing, but this is what it looks like from the side. So I just have like a 3-stitch I-cord here, and yeah, I'm very excited to continue knitting on this. I don't know why I haven't picked this up as much. It's a really fun project. I think just because it's not as summery, and it was really warm the last few weeks. So now it's cooled down quite a bit. It's a bit grey outside, and time to pick this back up.
set of honeysuckles, but I almost never found him, among whose job he's to talk about it.
It's way too early in the morning and I am basically about to leave and catch a train, and I'm gonna knit on my Elliot sweater on the train, so I wanted to give you a quick update where I'm at. This is the outfit of the day, by the way. This is my lobster topster. I have a pattern up for it on Ravelry. If you want to check it out, it's free. Anyways, this is the state of the front of my sweater. It doesn't look like anything, but I promise it's supposed to be one of the front panels. More specifically the left one, I guess. So it's gonna go like here, and then this is the shoulder, and then this goes across like that. Can you see this? Like this. This is what it's supposed to look like. And I need to obviously make the other one. And this knitted up really quickly, as you might be able to see. It's very short. The ribbing took quite long also because I knitted it twice, but it was fine. It's just ribbing. I'm going to start on the ribbing of the other front panel on the train, and then you do like a decrease row right over the ribbing and switch to bigger needles and stuff. And then I don't know, was there any like plain stockinette on this without any decreases? I don't think so, because on this side you always have to do decreases for the triangular shape. They're kind of weirdly irregular. I don't know what's going on there, but this is how they turned out. And then on this side you just you don't do decreases up until here, and then you bind up some stitches for the armhole as I did for the back. And then this is also like a weird ass decrease rate. And then up here I think you end with like 4 stitches. Very tiny shoulder, but it looks perfect size-wise, which is very exciting. But yeah, I think that's all the updates I have for now, and cut to the train, most likely.
But I almost never found him, among whose job is to talk about it.
So I finished my second front panel, and this is it. And I don't really know what to tell you about the timeline of this, because I worked on it here and there, and then I think a day or two ago I decided to really prioritize this project, just because I have a few more projects than I usually like on my needles right now. And whenever that happens, I feel like I can't make any significant progress on any of them, because I'm just working on this one a little bit, and then I'm working on this one a little bit, and nothing ever gets done, and it just gets dragged along, and I don't feel as accomplished, which is why I usually have fewer WIPs. But right now I have 4, and I decided to prioritize this one and just get it done and over with, so I can have one out of the loop. So I finished the front panel just now, and I put my little 3 stitches on hold up here. It looks very cute, and I'm not that happy with this front panel, especially not in comparison to the other one I made. This one I just worked the same way, just mirrored. And that means that next to the I-cord here, I did slip, slip, knit decreases. While on the other side, I then did knit 2 together decreases, obviously. And I'm not sure why that is, but I feel like the knit 2 together decreases look neater. I feel like sometimes you can see that there's like little holes in the fabric almost from where I did the decreases on this one, which is not optimal. So I decided that this is going to be the panel that goes underneath, and then the other panel is going to go on top of this one, just so this one is a little bit more hidden. And now all I need to do is work 2 sleeves, which should be fairly quickly. They're worked flat, as is anything in this pattern, and they're started bottom up as well. So I'm going to start with the ribbing, and then I'm going to work them up like this. I think they're fairly straight until here, and then there's just some decreases for the armhole. It's a raglan construction. It's a very weird construction. I've never worked a raglan construction in pieces like that. I'm quite proud of myself for figuring out the front pieces, because in the pattern they're one piece. So you essentially work something like this, and then you attach the other front panel behind on the ribbing. The ribbing is also a little bit longer because of that, because it's just one piece of ribbing, while I have 2, like 1 on each front panel, and they're going to go over one another. And yeah, let's do sleeves. I started reading a book yesterday, which is a rare sighting, to be honest. I used to read like crazy when I was a child or a teenager. I don't know, I read like entire books in half a day. I also missed important details from time to time because I got so excited my eyes would like jump ahead on the page. But I used to read quite a bit and I kind of stopped, which is a bit sad. I would like to get back into it, and from time to time I try to get back into it. I have like a library card, and then I'll go down to the library and I'll pick something out and then I'll take it home. And sometimes it's like really, I don't know what it depends on, whether it's a hit or miss. Sometimes I'll pick a book and I'll take it home and I'm really excited about it and I finish it in 3 days. And I'm like, oh my god, so cool, I'm getting back into reading. And then other times I go down there and I pick up a very similar book from the same section and everything, and then it just lays there, and then maybe 2 weeks later I open it and then I read the first few pages and I'm like, nah, this is not the vibe. And I'm trying to figure out what that is dependent on, because truly I have no idea. I used to read a lot of fantasy when I was younger, but I feel like I've outgrown that a little bit. Not the fantasy genre as a whole, but the type of fantasy I used to read. It was always some 16-year-old girl who was like very tiny and dainty, and then she discovered that she had some kind of magic powers usually, and then there was her best friend who was in love with her, and then there was the new guy from her new life who was also in love with her, and she had to pick, and she saved the world, you know. And that's cool and all, but I don't know. I feel like I'm a bit too old to read about 16-year-old girls falling in love with the cool guy in a leather jacket, if that makes sense.
I found God in puddles, in the sand of honest circles, in the purity of some books.
Good morning. I wanted to give you a quick update because I stopped at an interesting point last night, let's just say. This is my first sleeve, it's finished. Everything about this project is hard to show because it always flops in on itself. Anyways, it has ribbing down there, and then it's just knitted straight for a really long time. It looks a little tapered because obviously the ribbing is cinching it in. But then I stopped here and I found some stitches off, and then it decreases, basically like for the front panels or the back panel. And then this is what I bound off in the end, this tiny bit. And then I started on my second sleeve as one does. So that's the state of it right now. And let's just say this, the first sleeve, is about 80 grams. This is about 30 grams. And this is the last ball of yarn I have that I'm going to attach now, which is about 50 grams. So it's a close call. How do I fix this? Well, first of all, I'm going to try to finish my sleeve, and I'm going to hope that this is enough to finish the sleeve. If it is not, no idea what I'm going to do. For the bands that I need, first of all, I need a I-cord tie or something to tie it on the inside. So obviously one of the panels in the front is going to go underneath, and then it needs to be tied there. But obviously that doesn't really matter. I can just use a different yarn because you won't see that. I don't know if you can hear the beeping outside, but some large vehicle is parking outside of my window. And then on the other side, I wanted to do a double knitted band, not very wide, just maybe like this, and then make it a bit pointy in the end, something like that. And obviously that's going to be visible, so I don't know how we're going to fix that, because I'm very confident that this is not going to be enough for the sleeve and a double knitted band. It is a few hours later and I am surprised to report that I have 2 sleeves, like full sleeves. They are completely done, bound off the same, all rows, and I also have this. This is a few grams of yarn that I have left over, and I think it might be enough to at least do the tie for the outside. Okay, this is what I ended up with, which is not a lot, but that was all of my yarn. I was kind of hoping I could get enough out of this to make it a little tie, but I don't think it will be. I think I'm just gonna like tie a normal knot in it and that's it. But it's fine by me. I'm just glad I ended up getting all of the parts that are going to be visible on the outside out of the same yarn. Dried overnight, and I've had a very exhausting last couple of hours because I did a lot of seaming, but we are basically done. There's a lot of loose ends on it right now. As I said, I used a different color for the seams, and I've already included my little I-cord ties down here. I've just sewn them into the seam, and I think that's quite sturdy. Other than that, the most frustrating part of what happened, I had a revelation tonight. It was like 3 a.m. I woke up from a weird dream, and then I suddenly realized I need more yarn because there's a neck trim that needs to be worked after everything is seamed, which I kind of forgot about. But yeah, I remembered you need to do some I-cord up here, which I already did now. And since I didn't have any yarn left over, I had to go and unravel both of my little bands that I made for the front side. And this, again, is all of the yarn I have left over. I still need to make ties for the front because I unraveled mine. So I didn't really know where to go from here because this is truly not a lot of yarn. I think I might try to braid it, so to just cut them all into individual pieces and then make 2 braids, because first of all, I don't want to knit more I-cord. I don't want it to be stretchy, and I still want it to look kind of polished. I think even if I do a 2-stitch I-cord with this, it might use up more yarn than I would with a braid, and I think if I can get the braid to be about this long or a little bit shorter, that would actually be optimal. I'm happy to report that I am done. I am wearing my Elliot sweater that I decided to call Elliot Wrap because I made a wrap top out of it, and I'm very glad I'm finished. I had quite a bit of, not necessarily knitting, but seaming and making ties and finishings left to do today that I was not anticipating. This took me, like the last part of this process took me way longer than I anticipated. So I'm very happy to finally call this done. So about this garment, I would say it was a really fun process knit to do. It's really like easy stockinette, it's quite big needles, so it should go over relatively quickly. It's just a nice like in-between grab-and-go project. It's very easy to travel with because it's all in pieces, so if you just want something mindless, you can do maybe if you use public transport a lot, for example. I think that would be great. For the result, first of all, things that I like. I am really in love with this construction. I don't think I have any garment quite like this in my wardrobe, so I like that it adds something new. Like I have a bunch of sweaters, but I don't really have anything like that. I don't really own a cardigan either, so that's definitely something I'm gonna tackle in the future, but I guess this kind of counts as a cardigan. I really like the color I picked. I think it suits me really well, which I'm glad about because I had a really hard time picking out which color I wanted. I knew I wanted this yarn, but I really didn't know which color to go for. And there was like a bluish color, which is usually my safe choice. I know that blue usually looks good on me, but I'm very glad I decided to take a bit of a different route and also add a bit of a new color. I'm also surprisingly happy with the tie situation. I did a tiny little braid, so it's a very thin tie, but I'm very glad I can tie a bow with it because I think it looks much better with the whole vibe. But the things I'm not that happy with, definitely I would say the back of the neck I don't think is great. I don't know if that was my fault in like knitting it up or if I just don't like the way it's supposed to be, because it's like you knit an I-cord over the sleeves here and the back piece, and because it has yarn over in it, it's quite like big and fluffed up, which I don't think is fitting very well, and it's also, I don't know if you can see like this, but kind of like rolling in on itself a little bit. So I don't know, I don't think that's optimal. So if I have time someday in the future, I might go back in there and undo it and try to just knit a regular I-cord maybe. And the more noticeable problem maybe is what you might be able to see when I move around a bit, is that it's very wide up here on the shoulders. I am not sure if that is just part of the design. I think it would be even worse if I knitted the original version without making any adjustments, because at least this way I can tie it a little bit tighter, and that definitely helps. I think if it was just attached, it would be kind of like this, so it would definitely fall very far down and be like too open for my liking. I don't know how to fix that really. I could just attach like a safety pin here on the inside, and I think that would already help a lot. So I think for wearing it I might do that, and till I maybe figure out another way to fix it. But I'm not sure if other people have that problem too, with it like kind of slipping off your shoulders, or if that's just me. So in general, I'm very happy with the outcome of this project. And also you should like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe to my channel if you want to see me make more things. You can definitely let me know in the comments what you're working on, if you've done this pattern before, or if you have any recommendations for other wrap tops you've tried. And I will now show you some footage of this wrap all done, and I will see you next time.
I found God.